What if everything you've been told about motivation is quietly ruining your life? Think about it. You wake up, set goals, promise yourself you'll work harder. Maybe you even reward yourself. If I finish this, I'll scroll Instagram. I'll eat something good. I'll relax. And for a while, it works. But then something strange happens. You slow down, you procrastinate, you lose interest, and deep inside, a question starts to whisper, why do I need a reward just to do something that matters? That question is where this story begins. There's a silent battle happening inside every human being, not outside, in jobs, money, or success, but inside. A battle between two forces. One says, do this and you'll get that. The other whispers, do this because it matters. Most people never notice the difference. They grow up chasing marks, salaries, bonuses, approval. Life becomes a transaction. You give effort, you get rewards. But here's the uncomfortable truth. That system works for machines, not for humans. Imagine a young boy. He loves drawing. Not because someone asked him to. Not because he'll get paid, but because when he draws, time disappears. His mind becomes quiet. His heart feels full. Now imagine someone walks in and says, I'll give you 50 rupees every time you draw. At first, the boy is excited, but slowly something changes. He starts asking, how much will I get for this drawing? And one day, when the reward disappears, so does his passion. What just happened? Nothing outside changed, but everything inside did. This is the invisible shift that Drive tries to expose. Not as a theory, but as a reality we live every day. We've built a world where motivation is treated like a switch. Press reward, get action. But human beings are not switches. They are stories. They are meaning. They are purpose. And when you reduce them to rewards, you slowly disconnect them from themselves. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt excited about something until it became an obligation? Maybe it was a hobby, gym, studying, even your job. At first you were curious, energetic. Then came pressure, targets, expectations, and suddenly what you loved started feeling heavy. That's not laziness, that's a signal that your motivation has shifted from inside to outside. Here's where it gets interesting. There are two types of motivation. One is external. It depends on rewards, punishments, deadlines, fear. The other is internal. It comes from curiosity, growth, purpose, and the desire to get better. The first one can make you move. The second one can make you alive. Picture two people working late at night. One is staring at the clock, waiting for time to pass, thinking about salary, promotion, or avoiding criticism. The other is completely absorbed, lost in the process, not because someone forced them, but because they care. Same action, different energy, different life. So what actually drives us? Not rewards, not pressure, but three deeper forces that most people ignore. The first is control. Humans crave the feeling that they are choosing their path, not being pushed, not being controlled, not being micromanaged. Think about your own life. When do you feel most alive? When someone tells you exactly what to do? Or when you have the freedom to decide? When your time is controlled? Or when you own your time? That feeling of ownership, that's not luxury. That's fuel. Take it away, and motivation collapses. The second force is growth, not success, not results, but the feeling that you're getting better. There's something deeply satisfying about improving at something, even if no one is watching, even if no one is clapping. Have you ever tried learning something new? Maybe a skill, a game, or even editing videos? At first you struggle, then slowly you improve, and that tiny progress feels powerful. That's because humans are wired not just to achieve, but to evolve. When growth stops, motivation dies, and then comes the third force, the most powerful of all, purpose. The feeling that what you're doing actually matters, not just to you, but to something bigger. Because let's be honest, you can earn money doing something meaningless, but you can't stay motivated doing something meaningless. Not for long. Now imagine combining all three. You have control over your work, you're constantly improving, and you feel connected to a bigger purpose. That's not just motivation, that's momentum. But here's the problem, the world isn't designed like that. Most systems are built on control, not freedom, on compliance, not curiosity, on rewards, not meaning. And slowly, people adapt. They stop asking, what do I want? And start asking, what will I get? This is why so many people feel stuck. Not because they lack talent, but because they've been trained to depend on external motivation. Remove the reward, and everything collapses. Let's bring this closer to your life. Think about your goals. Why do you want success? Why do you want money? Why do you want to grow? Is it because you truly want it, or because you've been told it's important? There's a difference, and that difference decides everything. Because if your motivation depends on rewards, you'll always need more. More validation, more money, more approval. And no matter how much you get, it won't feel enough. But if your motivation comes from within, you don't need constant pushes. You don't need reminders. You don't need external pressure. You move because you want to. And that changes everything. Let's go deeper. There's a moment every person experiences. A moment when they realize no one is watching, no rewards, no deadlines, no pressure, just you and your choice. That moment reveals the truth. Will you still do the work? Will you still show up? Will you still move forward? That's where real motivation lives. Because discipline built on fear is fragile, but discipline built on purpose is unstoppable. Think about the people you admire, not just successful people, but people who are consistent, focused, driven. They don't wake up motivated every day. They're not chasing rewards every second. They've simply aligned their actions with something deeper. And once you see this, you can't unsee it. You start questioning everything. Why am I doing this? Is this really my goal? Or just something I've borrowed from the world? And slowly, your life starts shifting. You stop chasing. You start choosing. You realize that motivation is not something you wait for. It's something you design by choosing work that gives you control, by focusing on getting better, not just getting results, by connecting your actions to something meaningful, and suddenly, you don't need constant inspiration. You don't need hacks. You don't need tricks. You just need alignment. But here's the hardest part. This path is uncomfortable because it forces you to take responsibility. No excuses. No blaming the system. No waiting for rewards. Just you. Deciding who you want to become. And that's scary because freedom is heavier than control. But it's also powerful. Because once you stop depending on external motivation, you become dangerous. In a good way. You work when others wait. You stay consistent when others quit. You grow when others stay stuck. Not because you're special, but because you've understood something most people don't. That true drive doesn't come from outside, it's built inside. So the next time you feel unmotivated, don't ask, how do I push myself? Ask something deeper. Why am I doing this in the first place? Do I have control? Am I growing? Does this matter to me? Because when those answers become clear, motivation stops being a problem and becomes your nature. And one day you'll look back and realize you were never lazy. You were just disconnected. Reconnect and watch everything change.